You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Happy Friday, folks.
Yep. And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, Wife Dork.
Hello.
And Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
Beep, beep, Richie.
And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Welcome to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday.
Yay!
And this Friday, in honor of Stephen King's It, we have a fistful of Stephen King. Actually, it's not. It's Stephen King's It, but it's directed by Andrew Machete.
Andres Machete.
Andres Machete. Is it Machete like?
Is it
machete?
Andres?
Yes.
Is it pronounced Machete like Andres Machete?
It's Mouchete.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, whatever, motherfucker. That guy. So let's talk about our top 5. So these are, I guess, our top 5 Stephen King related things.
Sure.
Yeah, doesn't have to be movies, right?
No, it doesn't have to be movies.
It's Stephen King related things.
It could be Stephen King software or
Yep.
Stephen King soda.
Yep. All right. I'm with it.
Stephen King sandwiches.
Does he have sandwiches?
Nope. He has
Sure.
a lunchbox, which is my number 5. Brian, you're number 5.
So I did movies
All
because
right.
I didn't know what else
You
to
didn't
do.
do Stephen King product placement?
No.
No.
Well, I'm not that well versed in Stephen King or horror films, so I did a little bit of research. And
All of his films aren't horror films,
And
Brian.
I know that. I know that. But I know he's kind of known for doing kind of like not just horror, but a lot of mystical stuff as well. But I wanted to start with something that was kind of in the vein of what's the name of the group of kids in It, the Losers
Club?
The Losers Club. And to kind of get that vibe, we've kind of seen that in, coming back around with a lot of nostalgia from the 80s with Stranger Things and those group of kids. So I wanted to do Stand By Me as my number 5 because I feel like that kind of follows in the same vein as It with those kids. And I thought the relationship with those kids and that journey that they went through, and it was something different from, I guess, for me, for what I'm known, for what I know Stephen King for. And but a nice, a good film. I haven't seen it in a while, so I can't really speak.
I was going to ask you. So, what is your favorite thing about Stand By Me? What do you like about
the
it?
leeches?
Oh, okay.
No, that did terrify me. That is the scariest scene in the entire
Yeah,
film.
it is.
Have you ever gotten a leech?
No, I stay away from places where leeches would be.
We would swim in the lakes in Minnesota, and we would get leeches. And I remember when my brother was 2,
Did he have one on his balls?
he had one on his little 2-year-old pee-pee. Sorry, John. Why am I starting the story?
You have 2 brothers, but you called out John. It was John. He had a leech penis.
Yeah, it was. And I really wasn't a fan of leeches after that.
Yeah. But good movie. Good movie. None the least. Even with the leeches.
You can see that dynamic played out in several Stephen King stories. That group of, not quite teenagers. The transition into high school era. Yeah. You see that group in It certainly, but also in Dreamcatcher again.
Oh yeah, Dreamcatcher.
I know that's your number 1. More on
I was
that
thinking
later.
about putting that on the list.
You're just like, I love the way Timothy Olyphant twirls his finger. Kiefer Sutherland's great in Stand By Me. River Phoenix.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton.
Also, Richard Dreyfuss is in.
Yeah, he's the narrator. You see him for like 3 seconds at the end. I love Stand By Me. I can never show Stand By Me in my house ever again.
No, you cannot. Because
Because
what if I walk in at the wrong moment?
It has the ultimate V scene. It's awful.
Yeah, I've never watched it. I never will watch it. And I am so sorry. I never will, Wheaton, watch it because it
You
sounds
should.
scary.
Just when they go to the campfire, next chapter, fast forward. Boop. Boom.
I would need to be
Magic.
highly supervised.
Yeah,
And I would have the sweaty palms all
I
the
think
time.
you'd like it, but I also don't know if I necessarily want to put Lisa through it. So no Stand By Me on my list, Brian.
Sorry.
But it seems like that is certainly one of those first films where if you were a Stephen King fan and you were talking to your mom and you're like, Mom, he's more than just horror. Watch Stand By Me.
Yeah.
He's about emotion too. But so much of the drama of Stand By Me is found in all his novels. I mean, he is a character writer. It's all about the internal struggles as much as the extreme circumstances that he puts his characters through.
All right, Lisa, your number 5.
Like Brian, I am not a huge Stephen King aficionado. When Brad, when he was a kid, he was reading, John Grisham and Stephen King and, writing short fiction that was scaring his creative writing teacher.
Yeah.
And I was reading Louisa May Alcott and singing like a princess. So I did not like a lot of the Stephen King horror related things I've watched recently and I've watched as an adult. Starting with my number 5 is the Stephen King's It miniseries, which Brad and I watched like 2 days ago. A first watch for me. I can't say that I loved it. I think I gave it 2.5 stars on Letterboxd.
Yep. It's a thing.
It's extremely dated and not at all scary at all, unless you're like Brian and have a big spider phobia. Then I guess it gets a little bit gross.
It's not a traditional spider, Brian.
It's in the miniseries too.
Yeah, it is. It's in part 2. You don't have to watch it unless you want to see Tim Curry's amazing performance as it. Yeah. He really put his whole self into that performance, and he already has a pretty terrifying face without the makeup on it. So that's really great. And also the performance of that child. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, Jonathan Brandis?
Jonathan Brandis. That's right. There's like this one scene. He's the kid whose brother goes missing.
Georgie.
Little
we
Georgie.
all float down here.
Georgie.
And he makes this really heartfelt appeal to the other losers to let's go up against it because, we don't want any more Georgies and we don't want to be the next Georgie. But he is like just openly crying, and he has like the most pure expression on his face, and it's like you just in that moment you go, you're too good for this miniseries, especially when you put him up against the guy who is playing him as an adult,
John Boy.
Oh my goodness. So, I mean the adult cast, like it has John Ritter in it, who is
he's okay,
and he's okay. Like his character is kind of, I don't know. And then the guy who plays
Annette O'Toole's good in it.
Annette O'Toole is wonderful, and she's a stunning woman. Mm-hmm. Who's the stand-up character?
Oh, Night Court guy.
Night Court guy. You think of him as Night Court guy. I think of him as when there was like a Dave Barry sitcom. Dave Barry, the columnist, had like a sitcom, and I remember him being on that. Oh my goodness, that is like some deep,
Harry Anderson.
Yes.
Night Court guy.
But yeah, the adult cast is really something. Just really like.
I think in the original miniseries, the adult storyline is super lame.
Oh yeah.
The kids are where it's at, and the moment their story is over, the film grinds to a halt. Unfortunately, you have another 2 hours left. So I am really curious when they adapt this story, what they do with that second half. And I'm hoping they truly rework a lot about that book, too. I think as much as I liked the original novel, its climax leaves a lot to be desired.
This is the kind of thing where you could definitely see it being better as a book, because I can see it, getting much more psychological and much more like and really feed that sense of dread. But in this miniseries in particular, it's not very scary. So hopefully in the new one they'll, it'll be a little bit more scary. There'll be more jump scares. Already the imagery is a lot more artistic and scary and cinematic because it is a movie and not a miniseries. So yay. So that's my number 5.
Brad, your number 5.
My number 5 is John Carpenter's Christine.
Yeah.
About the possessed demonic car. It's a film that I did not particularly like as a kid, or even as a teenager, or even as a 20-something. I didn't really come around to this movie until I saw it projected theatrically at the Alamo Drafthouse 2 years ago, last year. The novel it's based on is a weaker Stephen King novel. It's a weird novel. It's a novel that starts off in the first person, and then when that character has an injury, the novel switches to third person. And you're just like, what's happening? You can't do that, but he does. That problem doesn't occur in the film. It's about, the nerdy kid that Stephen King so often relates to, played by Keith Gordon. He's doesn't have a lot going on for his life outside of his weird comic book obsessions, and he gets a car. He's been waiting to get a car, and he gets a car. And he buys this piece of junk from Robert Blossom's, this trashed out... Shoot, this is the point in the podcast where I should name what the car is. But it's a red one, and it's classic looking, like it's from the 50s.
There you go. That's all you need.
Is it a Chevrolet? I don't know.
Say Chevy, Brad.
So he gets this piece of junk car, and he puts his blood, sweat, and tears into refurbishing it and bringing it back to its former glory. Unfortunately, its former glory is possessed by a demon, and it infects the teenager as well. And his best friend, who's played by John Stockwell, he's like Rudy from the Monster Squad. He's the cool guy who has no business hanging out with the nerdy guy, but for some reason he sees something in him, so he's gifted Keith Gordon with his friendship. But as the car possesses Keith Gordon's character, he becomes a shittier person. He becomes cooler, certainly. He gets his hairstyle changes. He wears more leather jackets now. And he's able to have a relationship with Alexandra Paul, the hot new student. But even though the car gives him confidence in that jacket, it is also killing him and destroying him, and also becoming an outlet for his own rage. And he takes out the bullies with Christine. And watching it theatrically, I love the way this film looks. I love the car itself as a presence in this film, and I love Keith Gordon's performance throughout. And at the end, when he's inside the beast, and you get these shots of him in utter darkness inside the void of this creature, I love how Carpenter realizes the supernatural. It's not a Stephen King film that gets talked a lot about, and it's certainly not a John Carpenter movie that people, like when they're listing the top 5, Christine doesn't come up.
I totally forgot he directed Christine.
And I would not put Christine as a top 5 Carpenter film, but it is something that I think you will be surprised on rewatches how effective that film is. And if you do get the opportunity to see it on the big screen, I think it plays really, really, really well.
I used to always be in love and fascinated by the effect of Christine, like once she's dented up, like how she pops those dents back out and smooths back out again. I used to love that. That is awesome. All right, my number 5 is Frank Darabont's The Mist. I love films where going back to my Weekend Dork. I talked about Dawn of the Dead, and that movie, like, shit hits the fan like early, and I love films that do that have that type of setup. And in The Mist, it's the same thing. From the first act of the film, the mist rolls into town, and then everyone is herded into this central location, this grocery store, and while in there, they have to first, 1, figure out what's going on, 2, figure out how they can get out of this situation, and 3, just survive in the meantime in between those two. And so again, it's another one of those films like Dawn of the Dead where you do have physical creatures and monsters outside, but the people in this held up in the grocery store end up reverting to primal instincts and becoming monsters themselves. So I can appreciate that, but really the main reason why this movie is on my list is because of the ending. I remember when I was in the movie theater. I remember seeing this in the movie theater. And that ending happens. I don't want to spoil it because if you haven't seen it, but right before the reveal happens, I said it, man, if this thing happens, I'm gonna lose my shit. And then that thing happened, and I laughed so in the movie theater.
Same.
People were destroyed. And I loved it, and I felt so bad for that character.
Like, has a film ever been more mean to its main character?
I loved it.
This came out in 2007, so this was a fairly early date movie for Brad and Lisa. And I just remember finding the whole movie really ridiculous and laughable. Like, I understand, like, yeah, shit hits the fan, like, right away, but like, to me, like, it hits the fan in, like, a hilarious way, and then everybody's just kind of falling all over themselves. I don't know. I remember the movie being fairly ridiculous, and then the ending of the movie just kind of being a button on that. Yeah. Like, I found it to be a really crazy
I like The Mist. I don't love it. I feel the same way about the original story, too. I can't stand the Marcia Gay Harden character, the religious zealot.
Same.
You're not supposed to like her, but she's so one-dimensional, and she's such a negative force. And, in your Week in Dork, you were talking about Dawn of the Dead and how the humans are the real monster.
Yeah.
And in that film, I think it's handled really, really well. In this, it feels so incredibly forced. Ham-fisted.
Yeah.
But I also really like Thomas Jane in the movie. I love the monsters. I love the concept. I love the way Darabont shoots this film. And if you can see the black and white version, I really do think it is a superior cut to the film. And that ending, I applaud it. Yeah. I applaud that ending. Same. It is so hilarious and terrible. But I don't like, I'm happy that he did it. I'm happy that's how Darabont's like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Now, granted, what happens in the ending, that is not what I'm laughing at. No, I'm laughing at the audacity of the film and that Frank Darabont and the studio to do that. Like,
right.
That's what I'm laughing at. But yeah, it's horrific. Like, if you put that into real world context, like if that happens, like that's the worst case scenario.
That's no turning back.
But
that's the worst case scenario.
Like, that ending, that's not an ending. There's got to be more movie to this, right? You can't just leave us on that note.
That would be the
saddest
movie ever. It would just be watching a guy cry in a pile of his own shit. That would be the sequel.
I'd watch The Mist too. So, has anybody watched the TV show?
There's a TV show?
Yeah, I hear it's terrible.
Yeah, I heard it was bad.
All right, Brian, you're number 4.
So number 4, a lot of times when I look at Stephen King movies, you think about there's a lot of iconic moments, iconic scenes, and iconic shots. Like if you look at a highlight reel of just like a lot of Stephen King films.
Catcher keeps coming up and up over and over.
Yeah, all
that
the
toilet.
Time. Yeah.
Bump, bump, bump.
Yeah,
what's under that toilet? Bump,
it's iconic.
Bump, bump.
Yeah, they show it at the Oscars every year.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always in it. Yeah. But no, so one that came to mind for me was the ending to Carrie. When the bucket of corn syrup, whatever.
Pig's blood.
Comes down on her, and then she just goes all psycho murderous on everybody in the gym. And so yeah, I just thought that that's definitely an iconic scene, an iconic moment shot. That when you see it, you already identify with it. You know what it is. You know what it comes from, and just what that movie means. In the beginning of the horror genre. That was Carpenter, right?
Brian De Palma.
De Palma, that's right, De Palma. But yeah, like just that whole wave of like horror films in the 70s and moving into the slasher films and horror films in the 80s, you could definitely look at Carrie as being one of those films that kind of pushed forward the horror genre. So yeah, Carrie.
All right, Lisa, you're number 4.
My number 4 was something we actually watched recently with Secret Society of Filmmasons and was a first watch for me.
Yep.
And that was Creepshow. So Creepshow is, you probably heard us talk about it, is an anthology film that tells 5 different stories, 5 different stories, Stephen King stories. And what I liked about it is that it really watches like stories that you would tell your friends in the dark. You know, like, and under the staircase there was a crate and in it was a monster. You know, it's very like corny, cheesy. But for some reason, the story I just come back to in my mind is the one with Leslie Nielsen and
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. It's called Something to Tide You Over. And what I find myself doing is wanting to tell people that entire story from beginning to end. I'm going like, yeah, well, Ted Danson stole Leslie Nielsen's lady, and Leslie Nielsen is not happy, so he lures him to his beach house. So, and it's just like such like on its face, like kind of like a fucked up little story about Leslie Nielsen taking revenge on Ted Danson by holding him at gunpoint and burying him neck deep in sand at the beach. So as the and then he puts up a TV next to Ted Danson's face. So because a little down the beach, his wife is buried. So as the tide comes in, he gets to watch his wife drown real time, and then he drowns. So like that, like, you know, Ted Danson drowns, and that could be the end of the story. Like, wow, what a creepy story, right? But then they come back as these like crazy swamp monsters, and they haunt Leslie Nielsen. It's like so batty. It's so fun, and I can see being a child and watching it and being legit creeped out.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my number 5.
All right, that's my favorite segment of
Creepshow. Ditto.
Brad, you're number 4.
My number 4 is a non-supernatural Stephen King horror story, and that is Cujo. That is a story that I avoided for a long time because I knew it was about a killer dog, and I love dogs, and I didn't want to see a killer dog. But when you finally do watch it, it really is just 80 minutes of pure terror. It's about this friendly Saint Bernard who wanders into the wrong cavern and is bit on the nose by a bat, and he contracts rabies. And then that dog proceeds to terrorize the town, killing, you know, the local sheriff. It's the first novel to take place in Castle Rock, the most famous of Stephen King towns. And after killing that sheriff, it traps a mother and son inside their car. You know, they don't have the keys. They've got the windows rolled up. And, you know, for the majority of this movie is this St. Bernard just trying to get in through that glass and eat mom and son.
We watched this.
Yeah, we watched this together. Yeah, this is, I think, one of the first movies I showed you when you came over. Well, we were dating? Yeah, we had to have been dating. Yeah, so you came over to the apartment, and I showed this. We watched this together.
I remember. It's coming back to me now. And
D. Wallace Stone is so good at portraying pure fright.
It's a legit scary movie.
Yeah. I kind of love this movie, and it's a movie that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I think the word Cujo comes up when people think of Stephen King novels or horror films, but it's not one that people actually watch. Yeah. And I encourage you to do so because it is messed up. I wish it had the novels ending because I'm a bastard. but it does not.
That's why you should never read books. You'll be much more satisfied at the cinema.
All right, my number 4, similar to what Brian was saying in regards to films of Stephen King's adaptations having iconic moments or iconic shots. I don't know of one more iconic than Jack Nicholson peering through the smashed door in The Shining, saying, "Here's Johnny." I enjoy The Shining. I've never been in love with that film, but I've always found enjoyment in it. A funny thing happened though. Like I always felt it ominous, but never really scary. I never found myself having a moment where something scared me in the film. But then I would say about maybe 8 years ago, I rewatched the film, and the moment when Shelley Duvall's character goes to I think it was a typewriter.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Bless us all. The moment she goes to the typewriter and sees that all he was typing was all work and no play make Jack a dull boy, it made my hair stand up on my arm. And I don't know what that, it scared me. It made my heart skip a beat. Like, oh, that's frightening. I don't know why. Like, it genuinely, made me jump. Like, just reading that. And I don't know. I can't explain what that was. I don't know why that was. But for whatever reason, the implications of that were terrifying to me. And I know what his character is going through at that point and where he's going to go by the end of the film. But I just think that maybe putting myself in her shoes and her not knowing, because she hasn't seen the movie, she doesn't know what he's doing right now at that moment, but her seeing that for the first time, understanding maybe how startling that was for her, because all this time she's thinking he's been working on his book. He's keep brushing her off. Just leave me alone. I need to be by myself because I got to work on my stuff. And all the while, this is all he's been doing. And so how scary that could have been for her, and off-putting that could have been. So I don't know. But yeah, The Shining, that moment when he takes the axe to that door and he peers through and he says, "Here's Johnny." Like, that's really an iconic shot. And so I have to have that on my list.
I think there's nothing scarier than losing your mind.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, you're number 3. That rhymed on purpose. Do you see?
Poet's dork.
Please.
So I'm assuming this is a Stephen King adapted movie because it was on a list that I just saw. The Running Man?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just found that out today.
It's
just
technically based on a Richard Bachman novel, and Richard Bachman was a pseudonym for Stephen King when he wanted to branch out and try to become a different kind of writer.
Interesting.
It was like a secret personality that Stephen King had to write other books.
But it was still
Stephen King.
Stephen King. Gosh, interesting.
He also wrote The Long Walk. He wrote Thinner. Thinner was the last Richard Bachman novel. He wrote a really terrifying high school shooter movie or book called Rage that Stephen King himself has pulled from publication because he felt like it was too influential to Dark Minds.
Interesting.
That's fascinating.
Huh. So
It's
Running Man, yeah. So
because that guy's head explodes.
You could say that. I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I mean, I do remember it.
It's the 30th anniversary of this movie too.
Yeah, we watched this in the theater recently.
Wow. Yeah, I just remember this movie being just crazy, wacky. Just the premise alone.
Awesome.
Ben Richards as this talk show host.
Ben Richards isn't the talk show host.
No.
Ben Richards is
Arnold.
Is the running man, is the guy on the run.
The
talk show host is, what's his name from Family Feud?
Richard Dawson.
Yeah, Killian is the character's name.
Okay, Killian. Okay, that shows you that's the last time I saw this movie.
I choose Ben Richard. He's one mean motherfucker. That's what the old lady said.
But yeah, it's just a crazy kind of goofy film, and I mean I guess it kind of knows what it is. But I remember seeing this in the theater. I think it came out in '87, if I recall.
It did.
Yeah, '87.
Same year as Predator.
And RoboCop.
Wow.
And the Monster Squad.
It's a hell of a year.
Yeah,
The greatest year of all time.
And Lethal Weapon.
Of all time. God damn it.
Love The Running Man. It is a weird Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but kind of amazing at the same time.
Yeah.
It's also almost 0% to do with the book.
Really?
I mean, there is a game and in a dystopian future called The Running Man. That's it.
I'm looking for the name of the opera singing villain.
Oh, Domino. No, Dynamo.
Dynamo. I enjoyed that. That man.
Yeah.
Arlen Van Litz.
Buzzsaw. The saw is the law. Whatever the fuck he says.
Oh god, that movie has some crazy.
Jim
characters.
Brown as Fireball. Jesse Ventura as
Yeah, I remember Jesse Ventura.
as Captain Freedom.
Yeah. He's Captain Freedom.
Was it I thought the guy that was in what's the guy from Good Times?
John Amos?
Yeah, wasn't John Amos?
No, Yaphet Kotto was in it, man.
Yaphet Kotto.
Yaphet Kotto, I know.
And Jim Brown is Fireball. It's not John Amos.
John
Amos was in Beastmaster.
and Die Hard 2. I'm thinking Die. Okay,
Right. Those are very different movies.
How do you get Die Hard 2 and The Running Man
I just knew that
mixed up?
John Amos was in like some of those '80s action movies.
Yeah,
And
he
for some
was
reason,
great.
I thought he
great
seemed
in
like
Die
he
Hard
would have
2.
fit in Running Man. I
He
could
was
have
in
saw him.
Beastmaster.
He would have.
He was great. in
Anyway,
Beastmaster.
Running Man, awesome, good choice.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my number 3.
All right, Brian, I'm gonna need you to start watching these movies that you pick.
I'm trying. Hey, look, I tell you, Stephen King's not my forte, man.
Lisa, your number 3.
My number 3 is another recent watch. Why were we watching? Were we getting ready
We're watching.
for it?
Yes, correct. We're watching Stephen King movies, Lisa, because I love Stephen King and I'm excited about it.
So Brad recently shared with me the psychological thriller classic, The Lawn Mower Man.
Oh yeah.
And I legit really enjoyed this film. Jeff Fahey's performance as
Job.
Job is so sincere and over the top, like this, like flowers for Algernon, mental state, and then him going like, full her and like going like completely mind meld with the universe is just like so nuts. And then Pierce Brosnan as the like therapist
As
slash
Dr. Frankenstein.
game design, like it's like so nuts. I mean, I couldn't Darren scene by scene tell you what happened in this film, but I know that I got to see a lot of Jeff Fahey looking beautiful, like shirtless.
This
mowing
is
some
the
lawns.
Stephen King adaptation that King sued over to get
That's
his
right.
name taken
He-
off.
He disassociated with this particular project because apparently it diverted so much away from the original.
The original short story is about a lawnmower man who goes around to houses, strips down to his naked ass, crawls around on all fours, and eats the grass to cut it.
That doesn't happen in this.
And a lawnmower is psychologically or telekinetically pushed at one point.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. Dude, I weirdly thought it was about the old screensaver. There was like a screensaver of
yeah.
the Lawnmower Man. Remember back when we needed screensavers? What were those even for?
Yeah.
But if you have not, this is a movie I would love to see on the big screen. It's because
You alone.
of the there's like elements where like he's like going into the game like it's a full virtual world kind of thing, and there's like this like crazy sex scene where like Jeff Fahey and the blonde lady become like blobs and he's like melding with her, and it's like complete like amoebus rape, and it's like completely bizarre. Yeah. So
This is one of those movies in 1992 that I snuck into the theater to watch glimpses of for a brief moment while I pretended to go to the bathroom.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I think that it would be even more traumatic in short bursts. Because some of the visuals are just completely, bonkers.
Yeah.
But super, super fun film. And I think a great setup for Ready Player One. Also a virtual reality movie.
Yep.
So there you go. I think that's why we were watching it, because...
We were watching it because of Stephen King. We watched The Lawn Mower Man and The Running Man back to back.
Oh, we did that.
Okay. Brad, you're number 3.
My number 3 is another film from 1992. It is not an adaptation of a Stephen King novel or a short story, but it is an original screenplay. I believe it's the first fully original Stephen King screenplay. It is Mick Garris's Sleepwalkers, starring Brian Krause. So, one of the things that I love about Stephen King is, as much as I might defend his character work and, his dense storytelling, sometimes I just want a really cheesy B-movie vibe that you get from Creepshow or something like Graveyard Shift or Children of the Corn. Sleepwalkers, early 90s, it's about a mother and son. They're lovers. It's, for the Game of Thrones crowd out there, perfectly normal, natural lovemaking happening on in this film. But they're also cat people. And they go from town to town.
And he doesn't mean they like and have a bunch of cats.
No, they hate cats, actually.
Right. These motherfuckers turn into cats.
Yeah, they turn into cat people. And they go town to town consuming the life forces of virginal girls. In this town, Brian Krause encounters Magican Amick from Twin Peaks fame. And she is she works in a movie theater. She likes to dance to Chubby Checker. And she catches the eye of this cat boy. And he takes her home to Mom. Mom's like, yeah, we're going to need to eat her. But he's like, no, I kind of love her now. And she's like, no, you love me. We do it in the sack nightly. We create the purple light together. Don't you like the purple light? He's like, I love the purple light, but I also like this girl. Oh, no, she sees my cat face. She don't like my cat face. I am going to eat her. That's the plot of this movie. At some point, Ron Perlman shows up, gets his fingers eaten off. It's a great film.
Yeah. The How Did This Get Made episode about Sleepwalkers is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's classic.
Check it out. Good pick. My number 3 is the Green Goblin truck from Maximum Overdrive. That movie, you talking about B movies, Brad. I'm surprised you don't like Maximum Overdrive.
I've never seen Maximum Overdrive.
Are you serious?
Never seen it.
I thought you said you didn't like it.
No, I'm sure I told you I didn't like it because it just freaking it weirds me out. Like the idea that Stephen King would not only produce this thing but direct it. It looks so bad. And yeah, I've always been super dismissive of it. That trailer that he does where he's like, I'm going to show you the scariest thing I've ever done. Like, I don't like that trailer.
It's basically a zombie apocalypse movie, except instead of the dead coming to life, it's machines. The Earth passes through the tail of a comet, and it causes all the machines to go haywire and be autonomous, and the group of people end up converging on this gas station and holding up in there, trying to figure out how to get out, where to go, what to do next, and how to survive it. That's it. And and it's being encircled by a convoy of trucks because they know they're in there, and the quote unquote leader truck just so happens to be a Toys R Us truck that is adorned with the face of the Green Goblin on the front. Yeah, and then the girl who voices Lisa from The Simpsons is in there.
Doesn't somebody get their head blown up when a watermelon falls on it?
What?
I think so.
What?
Like there's like a watermelon truck that gets in an accident like on the freeway, and that watermelon crashes through a windshield and splatters somebody's head.
I gotta go back and rewatch that. I should know. I should.
I've
remember
seen
a head
like big
explosion from a
chunks of it.
watermelon.
It's a movie that's played like on TV a bunch. I just have not sat down and watched the entire thing because it's just so weird. It's
Don't
so
make me give
bad.
it to you for homework.
So bad. You're not giving this to me for homework.
B, you say you like B movie stuff.
I do.
This is
I do.
Stephen King
And I feel like, I should sit down and watch it from beginning to end. But I also feel like
Emilio
I've seen
Estevez
enough.
is badass. Ain't
Yeah,
he?
I've seen him. Okay,
He's badass.
All right.
All right.
It ain't Young Guns.
It's not Young Guns. Yeah, regulators. Brian, you're number 2.
So number 2, again, going back to classic films, iconic moments, iconic shots. This is a movie that's revered by many, especially that we've lived with this film for 20 some odd years. The Shawshank Redemption.
Yay!
I don't get it.
Aw.
I like it.
Yeah.
But that it's the greatest movie of all time.
No, but it's great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
I
of
dug
people,
it.
a lot of people have argued. I mean, it's geared a cult following from a lot of people, and a lot of people have argued that 1994, when this film came out, it probably should have won Best Picture over Forrest Gump. A lot of people argue that.
A lot of things should have won Best Picture over Forrest Gump.
Tell us how you really feel about
Fucking
Forrest.
Pulp Fiction came out that year,
Yeah,
man.
I know. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Definitely.
So, but yeah, Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman. Probably, I think one of his better characters that he's done. Of course, Lean on Me. You can't forget Lean on Me.
You can't forget Wanted.
High Fidelity.
Why do you make that face?
Patchouli.
No, Morgan
Sting.
Freeman
Morgan
has
Freeman?
not been in High
Oh, sorry.
Fidelity.
He said Tim Robbins.
Oh, Morgan Freeman. Oh, I was speaking of Morgan Freeman, but Tim
Oh,
Robbins was
I got
in
distracted.
Listen
High-
to Brian.
in
You
High
You knew we
Fidelity.
recorded our Fistfuls last.
High Fidelity, but Wanted.
Yeah. Shoot this motherfucker.
He's great in Wanted.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's kind of honing into his Sam Jackson there.
Yeah.
So, I like that. But yeah, of course the iconic shot, the iconic moment is when Tim Robbins escapes and the rain is falling and you get the overhead God's eye shot. That kind of that dollies up. And it's just a beautiful moment, a beautiful scene. And like when you think of Shawshank Redemption, you think of those iconic shots. Again, this directed by Frank Darabont, which we talked about with The Mist. And, of course, he's directed a few Stephen King films. So,
The Green Mile.
yeah, The Green Mile.
I have never seen The Green Mile. If we're thinking about future homework for me.
Great movie. So, yeah, and I think this is in the vein of that as well. But, yeah, Shawshank Redemption, I really enjoyed it. I have, again, a movie I haven't seen in a while, but I do have very fond memories of this film.
All right. I was going to quiz you on it.
And don't do
Lisa,
Yes.
I need to know what your number 2 is.
My number 2
Yep.
is the I almost said classic film, but it's totally not. The film 1408.
It's a classic.
Classic.
Classic tiny Sam Jackson in a refrigerator movie.
Brad, so this came out in 2007. I saw it in the theater, and the way Brad tricked me into seeing it was the same way he tricked me into seeing The Raven.
Yeah.
John Cusack.
You like John Cusack. He is one of my bays. So,
High Fidelity.
exactly.
Man, The Raven.
Oh my god. So, sorry to bring up
sorry.
that film. This movie is about John Cusack plays this guy who does like travel articles, like debunking like hauntings and things like that. He's just like a skeptic, and then of course he goes to the haunted hotel, and then he stays in the haunted room, and he has an experience.
With Tiny Sam Jackson.
Tiny Sam Jackson. I get it in my mind. I get it mixed up with a like 2012 movie.
Yeah, it's
Because
not
it's-
that good.
Because there is some like natural disasters within this room. I think
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
some kind of flooding in the room. I've blocked.
This
most
is your
of-
number 2?
This is my number 2. Do you know why? Because it reminds me of our early dating and me having no idea what it was going to be like to be going to the movies every other weekend with Brad.
Every other
Wait, so
weekend.
Every weekend.
What's the whole thing with a tiny Sam? I've never seen this movie.
There's a scene where he opens a refrigerator, and inside the refrigerator is a tiny Sam Jackson.
Is it like a toy?
No, it is Sam Jackson, And he steps out of the refrigerator on the shelf, and he has a conversation with John Cusack.
But
he's like 2 inches tall.
I've seen the trailer for this movie.
Yes,
he's like a regular person.
He's the hotel manager, and then we find out that he's been the hotel manager for like the past 100 years.
So why is he tiny?
Fuck if I know.
I've never seen this movie.
You need to watch it for Tiny God. Sam Jackson.
It's definitely an experience. I kind of want to watch it again.
You've just sealed the deal, Lisa. We are watching 1408 immediately after these guys leave.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you own it?
No, we do not.
Because streaming, man. Welcome to the future.
Okay, if it's streaming, I need to check it out. I need to see this. Let's see what show guys.
I found the spot on the Wikipedia page of why the thing fills with water. Okay. Like he's like there's like a picture on the wall, and he shakes the picture,
and then the water falls out of the photo.
Water from the photo falls in. Like it's real. I mean, like you can't say that it's not nutty. It's like completely nutty.
So you say he opens a refrigerator?
Like he opens a refrigerator where food and stuff is.
So he's
and like instead of his hot dogs standing on the shelf, he's the size of an egg.
Not
Okay,
not the freezer.
He's inside the fridge. He's the size of an egg, and he has a conversation with normal sized John Cusack.
Okay. Okay.
Just to tell you, I've completely blocked out that scene.
Really?
I do not remember Tiny Sam Jackson at all.
He might be the size of 2 eggs stacked on top of each other.
I don't know what. It just doesn't seem. I don't know. That just doesn't seem.
You're like Indian in the cupboard.
Yeah.
It's like Sam Jackson in the refrigerator.
But that movie just doesn't seem like it fits to have a scene like that in it.
You are not wrong.
No, it goes completely off the wall.
Weird shit happens in this room.
It's like way beyond
weird shit happens in the room.
It's like way beyond your regular haunting. It's more than a glass moves. It's like things go completely Alice in Wonderland, cuckoo bananas.
I'm sorry for losing my shit. This weird thing just happened. I was thinking about it right now as my head was splitting open because I have a migraine.
God,
so look,
seems weird.
He's just trying to shame me because he's doing the podcast with a migraine and I had to cancel because of the migraine. He's trying to make me feel bad.
Well, it's not that bad because Lisa, she gave you some medication, so
that's right.
I probably would have died had you not given me that. Anyway, this weird thing happened. As I'm laughing, I'm thinking about this. A few episodes ago, maybe like 1 or 2 episodes ago, I'm going to laugh before I say it. You mentioned something about a movie. About
here it is.
Some people who shrunk.
Oh yeah, downsizing. The trailer's about to hit.
And I don't know why when you described what that movie was on that episode. Oh my head is killing me. I don't know why.
No, don't let him see it. Don't show him the clip.
Okay.
Don't show him a clip.
But on that episode, when you
I don't even want to look at it again because I can't wait to watch it.
Okay.
When you described downsizing to me, I don't know what it was about the premise of small, like shrunken people like that. It was hilarious to me. But so I don't know, it's just funny to me. That's funny to me.
That people feel the same way about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That's different because they were. Well, I get because they were.
Because you're expecting it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in this context, like the way you describe downsizing, it's like a not a serious movie, but it's normal that they're that big, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know the premise. It's an Alexander Payne movie, but I think they're shrinking. Like, I'm not going to go into it. Well, from what I understand, they're shrinking the middle class of America.
Why would you do that? What sense does that?
No, there's a bigger theme to what the movie is about, and the trailer comes out September 12th.
Okay.
All right, just watch it and we'll get a better idea.
Well, anyway,
all right.
When talking about small Sam Jackson in the refrigerator, like why were you in the refrigerator? Like why couldn't you be in the cupboard? Like why are you in? Who put you in the refrigerator? And how long were you going to stay in there?
It's not technically a refrigerator. Technically, it's a mini bar.
Like, what if I was not going to be thirsty?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's like the size of an airline
Okay,
glass.
like a Jack Daniels.
Yeah, Jack Daniels.
Okay, got you. I got you. Okay.
I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Okay, Brian, you're
so
number.
glad I brought
Wait,
this
No,
up.
Brad.
it's Brad. You're number 2.
Shit, my number 2 is Carrie.
Okay.
You know, this is a film again that I didn't appreciate until much later in my fandom.
Yeah.
It's one of the first novels I read of Stephen King, and I liked it okay. But watching it now, I'm more excited about the filmmaking that's happening in that movie. What Brian De Palma does with that story, how Brian De Palma forces his style onto the structure of Stephen King's first book, that I really, really love to experience. Sissy Spacek is phenomenal as Carrie, and that high school experience, it's everything that I feared high school was going to be. When I first saw that film, I was like, oh no, this is high school? This looks scary. They're gonna pour blood on me? I hope I get that telekinetic power so I can handle myself. But I love the teenagers. I love Nancy Allen as the villain. I love John Travolta and PJ Souls. I love William Catt in this movie as all that is beauty. But you know, it's a truly satisfying watch as well. You know, when the horrible thing happens to Carrie White and her powers are unleashed, it is satisfying, and it's fun to watch her let loose. It's cathartic.
De Palma does his trademark. He does some dope shit in that sequence with the split screen, like split multiple ways. Actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that's I love that moment.
And you know, it has that classic final jump scare of the hand coming out of the grave.
That scared the shit out of me.
To me,
when I was little.
it's not so much about that hand popping out of the grave. No. It's the mist. It's the environment. It's the dream of that final moment that is really like goosebumpy.
Yeah. All right. My number 2 is he wasn't even in the cock-a-doodle car. Misery, Kathy Bates.
Oh yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I had that on here.
No, you didn't. One of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. James Caan's so good in it. Kathy Bates is good at that. This was the first time I watched a movie. I mean, read the book and then watched the movie, or was it vice versa? Anyway, I just remember while the book obviously went into more details, and there were some differences in some of the kills. Like when the sheriff comes, that in the book he gets killed with the lawnmower. But I enjoyed the movie more than the book, and I think a lot of that comes from Kathy Bates, her performance and her bringing life to that particular character. Because in the book, when I read it, that's not the character or the characterization that I projected onto those words, but her performance was just startling, because she was, she was so disarming and then unhinged, and you really felt bad for James Caan's character, especially after he gets hobbled. Which you're talking about, like iconic moments in a film, iconic shots. That shot when she takes that mallet to his ankle. After she puts the block in between it, oh my god, that always stayed with me. But yeah, I found myself really being terrified by that movie. Not so much scared, but the suspense was just there with that character and her, and just how she slowly revealed her obsession with him, and then how once it was let loose, just how tense that situation got, and how urgent it was, and him being crippled trying to get out, just led for some great moments toward in the third act of that film. That's for me, I think that's one of the strongest adaptations. I would put that up there as far as right up there with like Shawshank Redemption or whatever. And it's not that type of film, but as far as being a good adaptation of his work,
I agree.
I feel it's as satisfying.
Like Misery, Shawshank, Stand By Me.
Stand By Me.
Those are like as close to bringing the words to life that they've come.
Yeah. All right, Brian, you're number one.
So my number one is probably your number one.
It is my
number
one.
I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I know you could probably speak more eloquently about the film. But
Dreamcatcher.
Yes, how did you know?
Ass blasters. They're a problem.
No, it is The Green Mile.
Why is it your number one?
It's a phenomenal film. It's an absolutely phenomenal film. Michael Clarke Duncan, I think, gives probably one of the most heartfelt and emotional performances, heart-wrenching performances that we've seen from any character I think I've probably seen on screen. And the journey of this character, the journey of watching this film through the eyes of Tom Hanks' character and how it changes Tom Hanks' character. I won't get again. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, and I know, Lisa, you said you've never seen The Green Mile, but it's a phenomenal film, and those last moments with Michael Clarke Duncan are just heartbreaking. It's a truly beautiful film. I think it's a film that everyone should definitely check out and watch. I think it's a transformative film. I think everybody would be better coming away from watching this film. There's something I think everybody can take something away from this film.
That was a really weird experience reading the book because Stephen King published it in bursts. He tried to replicate the Charles Dickens style of publication where only 100 pages would come out, maybe a little more, a little less than 100 pages. Every month or a couple of months, you'd get a section of that novel. And over the course of what felt like an eternity, The Green Mile was finally unveiled to you.
Yeah.
And as a kid, as that was being published, or as a teenager, I found that experience, while I appreciated what he was trying to do with the medium, incredibly frustrating.
Right,
and it made me angry towards that book because I was enjoying reading it, but then I'd have to wait, and then after a month, I couldn't remember what the last chapter was, so I'd have to flip through and read the last chapter, and it was like aggravating as all get out. And I think I brought some of that animosity towards the film when I first saw it.
Oh, okay.
And it's a film that I have not revisited
it's been
too
a while.
often. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I've seen it at least once on DVD, but I think that's it. Like, I think I've only seen it twice.
Yeah, I've never seen it in the theater. It came out in '99, but it kind of, I hate to say this, but it's true, especially back then. When I saw runtimes for movies and movies like 3 hours long, it takes me a while to really get the courage to go see, because I got to sit in this theater for 3, especially if the seats are bad.
Well, you certainly have to plan your day a little better.
yeah. Like, it took me a while to go see Titanic in theater. I think it was like 2-3 months after release. I was like, okay, let me go check out this movie everybody's loving. So I didn't see Green Mile until it hit DVD, but I'm glad I did see it when I saw it. And it's just a phenomenal film.
All right, Lisa, your number one.
My number one Stephen King adaptation film is The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I know Darren was rolling his eyes about it just minutes ago. I think it's so terribly unfair. It's cute when Brian says it as his number 2 and he gets an eye roll, and when I say it, it's like, hooray! It makes me feel like he's been insincere with me for so many podcasts.
No, it's more about me. Believe me.
I'm happy for you that that's your number one. Like,
It is my number one. I remember I watched it in college. It was like one of those, like, it was like kind of rolling around the dorms at George Mason University, and I really did fall, like, I love plots and schemes. I love a scheme in a movie, and the reveal of Tim Robbins' escape is like so satisfying. Like when the prison guards pull back the poster and you see this big hole, and then you get the like flashback of everything that he did to create this escape. It's become almost cliche now, the idea of digging out and hiding it with a poster. I remember it being like referenced in The Simpsons. It's like a thing. I also really liked the Andy Dufresne. Good. I said it right the first time.
Andy Dufresne, he
Car-
crawled through a river of shit. That's my Morgan Freeman, guys.
It was spot on.
It's
It was
not
like
bad.
he was here. But I really enjoyed that, his character being a lawyer and on the front, like doing things the right way and seeming to participate, but all of this time he is planning his escape, and then also his relationship with Red and how they create this bond that pays off for Red so many years later and gives him a reason to continue to exist outside of prison where other guys could not. So I really do think that it's a beautiful story and a different side of Stephen King that you don't usually see, and it's not a horror film. So there you go.
I said I don't get like why everyone thinks that's the greatest movie of all time, but I said I like the movie. I said it's a great movie. My experience with the film, and the reason why I'm pretty sure this is why I have that question of like what's the big deal, is because I only saw the Shawshank Redemption maybe about 5 years ago. Like so, but at that point it had always been excuse me, when you go to IMDb, and it had always been at the top. It has like the 10 out of 10 ratings everywhere, and it's like you said, it's a Simpsons have referenced it, so it's a thing. So I had like these huge expectations going in, and when I watched it, all the performances are great, the story is great, that reveal at the end, that payoff is great, them seeing each other, being reunited, all that's great. But I don't know, I guess I was projecting all these expectations from all the accolades and everything that everyone else was saying about the film. I guess I built it up to be this huge unattainable thing.
Right.
So when the movie just gave me what it was, which again, it's not bad, it wasn't that huge big thing that I made up in my mind. So
The hype around Shawshank when it came to video,
right.
Was severe.
Right.
I wouldn't say that it's the best movie of all time, but I do think that it elevated the idea of a prison break. You can't watch think about Grand Budapest Hotel. I just had a list in my brain. The movie that just came out that you loved so much.
Escape Plan?
No, not Escape
Logan
Plan.
Lucky.
Logan Lucky. What's another one? I had a third one in my head.
I really like Logan Lucky a lot.
But you can't watch a prison break without thinking about Shawshank Redemption. Oh yeah, I Love You, Philip Morris. That's another great prison break scene. And so I think that it, like, within the context of that film that you feel is not extraordinary, it did change that aspect of film. It did leave something iconic.
And I think maybe because I was so late in seeing it, I had seen all the films that inspired it maybe, or all the things that inspired it, so those things were normal to me. So when seeing the original, it wasn't original to me. Maybe that's... I
don't know, maybe. I mean, like, I like a twist. I like a twist, and I liked the twist of the prison break and the poster and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I love relationships.
I think narratively also that it is a film of a different time. I think structurally it is very classic, and so it doesn't necessarily feel like a contemporary movie. That's like 7 ways of saying the same thing. So there you go.
I mean, it's a period movie.
No, I mean the way Darabont tells that story structurally, how the mechanics of his epic life in this prison are portrayed. It feels like something that would have been shot in the 50s.
Right. Okay. Maybe I haven't seen enough 50s movies.
I don't know. Maybe I'm full of shit.
I think you are a little bit.
What?
You're like crawling through it like
A river of it. A river of it. Maybe.
Well, what's your number
That's
one?
podcasting, Lisa. My number one is not The Shining, even though it is without a doubt my favorite film that we've mentioned so far. But when I think of The Shining, I think more about Stanley Kubrick and Jack Nicholson than I do Stephen King. And while I like the Stephen King novel, I truly love the film. So my number one is Cronenberg's The Dead Zone, the story of Johnny Smith, who, after a car accident, gains the psychic abilities to tell the future by touch, and how that really is a curse upon his happiness. He wakes up from a coma after 7 years, and his girlfriend has married somebody else and has a child with somebody else, and he is totally alone and without purpose. And he finds purpose in helping, the Castle Rock sheriff catch a killer. He finds purpose in helping this child with his studies as a tutor. And he finds purpose when he shakes the hands of Donald Trump. I mean, Martin Sheen's George Stilson, who, when he shakes his hand and he sees that this man is going to cause the end of the world by the push of a button, he knows that he must act before it is too late for the human race, and he picks up a rifle and kills that guy. And it is an incredibly grim, dark path that Cronenberg tells exceptionally well, and I think it is without a doubt like the most Christopher Walken-y performance. You can see all his affectations on display, but it is also the most heartfelt performance that he gives, the most honest performance that he gives. So I love The Dead Zone.
Yeah. I love Christopher Walken in The Dead Zone, too. He's so good in it. I haven't seen that since... Was that a movie or a TV movie?
No, that's a movie.
It
Last
feels
time
like a
I've seen
TV
it is
movie.
I've only seen it on TV. That one I would like to see theatrically.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, good pick. My number one is, as Brian said, The Green Mile. Now I know that Lisa has not seen it. I can't go into why it's my number one. You just have to trust me on it. Surprisingly, I think it's been on a fistful of mine before, and hopefully Lisa doesn't go back and listen to that, because I think I spoiled some stuff in that. Yeah, but this later on in life, I would come to the understanding that Stephen King is not, because for me as a younger adult and a kid or whatever, Stephen King was just synonymous with horror literature. So it always interests me when I would find out that he was writing things other than horror, and to find out that The Green Mile, which was, as Brian mentioned, directed by Frank Darabont, which was from a Stephen King, his writing, I was surprised. But then I was even more surprised when I watched the film and saw just how much heart. Brad, you were just talking about The Dead Zone, and I was thinking about Christine. And Stephen King has his characters being given gifts, but there's always some tragedy inherent in the receipt of those gifts. In Dead Zone, he has the gift of sight to see the future. In The Green Mile, a person in that film has a gift to do some extraordinary things. In Christine, that guy is gifted a car, but it was not his fault that what transpires when he receives that gift. It was the car's fault, but tragedy befalls upon him. So there's this interesting thing that I'm noticing with some of his characters in that way. But Tom Hanks is amazing in the film. Justin Hammer from Iron Man.
Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell is amazing in the film. The guy who plays Percy, the asshole guy.
Yeah, Toombs from X-Files.
Yeah, he's
Punisher
Punisher Warzone. Yeah. Puzzle Face, Jigsaw Face.
Jigsaw.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Puzzle Face.
He's amazing in the film. And Brutus, the guy who was he's in Long Kiss Goodnight. He was in The Negotiator. Tom Hanks' right-hand man.
Yeah, I can't, he's also in The Walking Dead.
Is he?
Yeah, isn't he the...
Not Noah Emmerich.
No, I can't tell.
No.
You keep talking, I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about Dale. The guy who
Yeah,
played
Dale.
Yeah, he was in Green Mile.
Dale's in it, but
Yeah.
also the guy who plays Brutus. He's
David Morris.
David Morris.
Yeah.
I was thinking somebody else.
He was amazing in the film.
Yeah.
And then obviously Tom Hanks is great. And then the mouse is amazing and is magical in the film. But Michael Clark Duncan is the standout in the film, not just from a performance.
No, Dale is in it. I was right. Okay.
Yeah.
We were just talking about somebody different. Okay,
Right.
never mind. Sorry.
Michael Clark Duncan is, for me, the standout, not only just from a performance standpoint, but just what that character turns out to be. Lisa, you talk about how that film, The Shawshank Redemption, at the end, there's a reveal of things that, actually just the reveal of a character's true intentions. There's a similar reveal in The Green Mile of a character's true intentions, because you only get snippets of some events that portray him, at least in the eyes of certain people or a lot of people in the film. These snippets portray Michael Clark Duncan's character, John Coffey, in a certain way. Well, at the end of the film, there's a reveal of his true nature and the truth to events that initially molded people's perception of him. But I just think that his performance is so warm, it's so human, and I don't know, it's a tragedy that we lost him as early as we did, because you look at him in this film and then you see him in something like Slammin' Salmon. You talk about range, but it's not something that one would maybe normally associate with Michael Clark Duncan, who physically you think, oh, well, he's going to be typecasted to either like a big strong person role or a bodyguard or a bouncer or action movie or whatever. But in this role, he plays that role could have been played by somebody my size and still have the impact. But because he is that big, I think, and because, his heart is even bigger than his stature, and he portrays that well as John Coffey. And I think that it's the touchstone of the heart of the film, I think. And
we're recording this on the 3rd of September, the Sunday. 5 years ago today, he died.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
All right, that is freaking weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number one. Lisa, man, I'm so
You want to switch to homework, don't you?
Well, you guys already did a Green Mile episode, right?
No, we haven't.
Oh.
Can't switch, no switchies. We've already recorded
All right,
it.
well-
We're going to be recording this podcast forever, so
All right.
you can give it to me next round.
Brad, you just throw it on one day this week.
Okay.
That's going to do it for us. Let us know what your top 5 Stephen King either movies or moments or books are.
You don't have to be an expert. You heard me and Brian.
Yes.
You don't.
At ItModcast on Twitter, Instagram, and you can follow Brian the Turtle Dork on Twitter at
The Turtle Dork, Instagram at The Turtle Dork 1, Facebook at Brian William Young, and Letterboxd, even though I'm not currently active.
And he's killing it on YouTube.
Yes, YouTube. Check out the channel ItModcast.
Yes, and White Dork is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Brad is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. Yeah. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Be on the lookout for ItMod Film Club, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Watch it today.
We are currently at Genre Blast. It was amazing. Not the Genre Blast, the movie.
The Genre Blast is also amazing.
Yes, it is amazing, and it will continue to be amazing because RoboCop will be coming out on their last closing film. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So, yeah, we got some more goodies coming on down the pipeline soon. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go see it. And until next time.